All right, sweet. So we're recording. What is up, good lifers? Welcome to the Good Life Property Management Podcast, a show for property management entrepreneurs looking to build great businesses and live the good life. I am your host, Steve Welty, and my goal, as always, is to help you build a bigger future. If you enjoy the show, please refer someone to the podcast, send them the episode, or write a review. And I want to give a shout out to my show sponsor, Lead Simple. They're crushing it in this world of CRMs for sales for property managers, and I use it. Most people really focused on growing their companies are using it, and I encourage you to check it out. Please visit the link in the show notes and put in the coupon code STEVE for 10% off. So for this episode, it's going to be different. I'm with my guest, Matt Tringali, and we're actually just recording a phone call that we're kind of having a mastermind call about, whatever comes up. We've got some topics that we each wanted to kind of talk about, but I just wanted to kind of press record and let you guys kind of just be a little like a fly on the wall for this conversation. And I think masterminding provides a lot of value. So I hope you get a lot out of it. Matt.
Yeah, Steve, glad to be here. Thanks for the call.
Yeah, man. How are you?
Very good. Living the good life.
Awesome, brother. It looks like it. I like your little office setup. You got like the nice white chairs and like who did the decor? You or your wife?
That is my wife. She loves that kind of thing. So, and I appreciate her for it.
Nice, man. I emailed you the other day and your email bounced back with like this funny like vacation responder. And I thought Jordan had the best one, but I kind of liked yours a little better, man. Where'd you get that?
Yeah, I stole that from Tara over at the BDM Academy, who you know.
Nice.
We had that same autoresponder, and I ripped it off from her and kind of made it my own. And yeah, it always gets a good chuckle.
That's funny, man. That's so
Yeah.
funny. Hey, I wanted to ask you about Facebook. Like, what are you doing on Facebook at all, like to get new business or to just bring brand awareness or any social, really?
Yeah, so I mean, my background before I got into property management about 10 years ago was in real estate sales. And when I was first in real estate sales, anytime I didn't get a deal, I would always take that person out to lunch and say, hey, what could I have done differently to have gotten your business? And almost invariably, the answer was always, I just forgot that's what you did. And so ever since then, really since Facebook's been a thing, I always just made it a point that, we have to be top of mind. Everybody knows lots of realtors and even property managers. And so we just have to be top of mind. So I try to use Facebook in that way, just being myself, being natural, being friendly, keeping in touch with folks, and then just sort of casually intermixing, what we do for a living to remind people that we help people achieve their investment real estate goals.
Totally. Yeah, I think top of mind awareness, it's so important, but then also sometimes I work because like I always want to see ROI, right? So like sometimes, like right now we're doing this Facebook Live campaign. I don't know. I did an episode with Crystal Lindsay, who's a super cool Facebook kind of, social media lady, has this company 333 social media. And she's been kind of coaching us a little bit on doing lives. And, we've done maybe like 10 of them and we boost them for $25 and we get like a couple $1,000 or a couple of thousand views. But like, I haven't necessarily been able to track that to anything we've like closed, you know what I mean? But we created a mega list with all of our Gmail contacts, our LinkedIn contacts, our family and friends. And so like all those people see that, because you can push it to them. So just to be able to get like a video in front of them so they do see, oh, Steve's doing property management, he's got the company, it's got to build brand awareness and, get us some return, I would think, but that's what we're dabbling in now.
It's always tricky, right, with the ROI, how you value brand awareness, because so much of that type of thing is brand awareness, and you can't always trigger it to, oh yeah, that person signed up with me because of that Facebook ad.
Right.
Maybe he did, maybe it's part of the equation. So we've dabbled a little bit. We have not done what I would call a campaign like you're doing, but we dabbled just to kind of see what the experience is like with Facebook boosting, that type of thing. But yeah, that's been on kind of my to-do list, probably as a goal for next year, to be more thoughtful and intentional about how to do that.
Yeah. Well, we should link up when you're ready, because hopefully I'll at least have a purple belt or something. Right now I'm still like swimming in the new in the waters, but it's fun. We add some value. We have a format. We talk about management related stuff, and try to get comments. So that's like the holy grail supposedly is the comments. You know, you're trying to get the comments so that they'll show it to more organic reach people. But Instagram, not really. I mean, we're on Instagram, but we're not really spending money there. But Facebook, I think it's just going to become more relevant, not less. So I'm encouraging people to kind of at least look at it, you know?
Yeah. I was speaking to Todd Breen earlier this year, and he went to a Gary Vee conference.
Nice.
And he really just talked about how with Gary Vee made the point, and if you read some of his books, Crushing It, I think is one of his books, and he kind of makes the point that there's this real estate of social media platform that exists out there that it's kind of like getting on the first page of Google was 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever. Now there's that same opportunity for Facebook, Instagram, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. And basically, we all are in a race right now to stake our claim in the social media space to get that attention. And Gary Vee makes the point that, if you don't get that done in the next couple of years, you're just going to get left behind. So I think you're on the right track. I think it's really important. I think it's the new version of SEO, right?
Totally. And it's not, my unique ability. I don't love it. So I have a good marketing lady that does it. And so that's been a good investment. And we're learning a lot. Man, I love Gary Vee. I was listening to his podcast this morning and he was like, as long as I and like 9 other people in my life are alive, like it's hard for me to like be sad or like, have a bad day. And it's like, he's such a positive guy. And so I wrote that down because I was like, that's so true, man. It's like, I got some fires to put out today and some other stuff. And I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, dude, it's nothing, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool. So what do you got, man? Anything on your mind? What are you working on?
Yeah, I sent you a list here as I was kind of thinking about this call. And, the biggest thing that was interesting to me to think about, because I know that you're getting ready, I think, is it later this year or next year where you're going to kind of have a local mastermind conference, so to speak?
Yeah, in October 15th in San Diego.
I think that's fantastic that you're doing that. And I know that you're in a mastermind and I'm in one as well. And I've just found that to be one of the most beneficial things as a business owner. I know a lot of folks talk about business coaching and I know that's great too, but I think masterminding is right up there with that to get that peer-to-peer interaction. It's like people kind of talk about it's kind of lonely at the top sometimes, right?
Totally.
It's to be able to be in those kind of relationships where iron sharpens iron has been super valuable to me. And how's it been for you?
Yeah, man, the last 3 years, I think we've been doing this and it just changed everything. I mean, I could probably attribute, the majority of key moves and key successes to the mastermind, built some great relationships. I think a lot of people have trouble with keeping it going. So I think there's kind of got to be like that person that keeps it going. But I don't know, maybe we just got lucky and hit the right mix of people because like we're all friends and, we've like visited each other's offices and we do like a yearly get together and, I think they just see the value. And that's kind of what got me to start the new mastermind was I was like, man, this really had a major impact on 8 people plus me. Why not spin this off and get it out to some other people and maybe go deeper in like a in-person all day format, get like the 8 months worth of masterminding done in a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so do you have any advice for people out there who aren't in a mastermind, kind of how to get started with one and, what you've learned from that?
Totally. So what I did was listserv. I just put out, hey, I want to start a mastermind. And actually the reason I did that was I reread, and I'm such a fan of rereading books and I don't do it enough, but like, I'm like making a concerted effort now. I reread Think and Grow Rich. And Think and Grow Rich is like extremely clear about starting a mastermind. It's like, you need to start a mastermind. And I was like, whoa, I never did that when I read this the first time. So anyway, I did it and I put it on listserv. I said, please answer these 5 or 6 questions. So I would make some questions that are like important to you, if you want people with like a lot of doors or not, a certain amount or certain type of ambition or whatever, I would make some questions and I sent that out. And then I probably got like 25 responses. And then I recommend no more than like 8 or 9 max for a mastermind, at least one online. because otherwise people don't really have a chance to speak. Some people, as the group grows, usually the smartest people are like the most quiet, and then they're like reserved and they don't want to like, take up the time. So I would keep it at that number. And then we started out with like topics, but honestly, we did like 2 meetings about topics, and then every other one we just log on. We're like, "What's up, guys? What are you doing?" And then someone just kicks it off. They're like, "Man, I'm beating my head in on this. I'm going to start." So I don't even think you really need to overthink it and have a deep format or anything. But I would just say pick a time, and you only miss it, if it's something major. Because once people, I think there's value in it. And if people stop like not showing up, then you got to have that conversation, because there's probably someone else that can add value that's not in it,
I agree with that. What frequency do you guys do?
So we do once a month. Yeah. Once a month.
Yeah, so our mastermind, we do every other week. So it's pretty aggressive on the frequency. And we just adopted this to where one meeting, we do a deep dive topical conversation. And so we'll kind of set a calendar out a few months in advance, kind of figure out what we're all working on. And then one person will lead that deep dive. And then in the off meeting, the other meetings of the month, we basically do what you just described, sort of like an accountability session, just kind of riffing on what's going on, holding each other accountable to goals we're working on, that type of thing. But yeah, it's been absolutely fabulous. And, we can create a Google Drive to kind of share ideas and share resources and kind of understand what the landscape is like. But yeah, just like you, so many great ideas come out of that. So many great ways to improve business and life.
Yeah, totally. Who picks the deep dive topic? How's that work?
It's pretty democratic. I mean, we all just sort of we keep a Google Doc where we just kind of keep a list of all the things that we want to be working on. So like one of the deep dive topics we're about to do is Lead Simple, actually, who's, I know, your sponsor today. Nice. And so, and actually I know you had Brad on recently. So I recently bought Brad's product, and I'm kind of implementing that in a Lead Simple. And then, then I'm going to kind of lead a discussion on Lead Simple on kind of some best ideas, best practices, and that type of thing. So yeah, just whatever we're all working on. Actually, another topic you brought up that we might talk about here is the best time to interact with owners or tenants for sale transactions.
Yeah.
And so we actually did a deep dive topic on that recently, which was
nice.
pretty cool. So I'm not the expert at that, but one of the other guys in my mastermind is doing a great job with that. And so he shared a bunch of great ideas and canned emails and scripts and that type of thing that we're all kind of looking at and figuring out how we can implement it into our own businesses.
Nice. Can you give me some more on that? Like what did that process for him look like?
Yeah, so in that particular case, we really were talking about how to convert tenants into buyers, which of course, we have to be sensitive about as property managers. We don't want to encourage our tenants to leave. Obviously, our duty is to our landlord to keep our tenants in place. But the reality is, as we all know, and our landlords would understand, tenants do buy houses. And so, when that happens, we'd love to be in that place to help them with that. And I had always found historically that there's something naturally adversarial from the tenant's perspective in how they view their landlord or property manager. Like sort of no matter how hard you try to be the nice guy, like they just don't kind of view you that way. And so that to me was sort of the biggest hurdle to overcome. And so it was really all about having the right realtor on your team that is really just dedicated to going all out with this.
Mm-hmm.
The way he put it is it has to be somebody who has a lot of empathy, that, is willing to kind of hear those rough conversations with tenants. Or I think sometimes you might call up and they might be like, oh yeah, good life sucks. Or, oh yeah, I love good life. And so, you got to sort of adjust the script from like, okay, how does the tenant feel about this situation? What do I do next? And so, kind of talk through that. And then all about the timing, of course, of, when's the right time to reach out. We start our lease renewal process kind of about 90 to 100 days before the end of the lease. Mm-hmm. But what we found is that's too late. If you're thinking about asking a tenant if they're going to buy a house,
totally,
they're already on track with that by then.
Totally.
You have to be talking about that to them almost just 3 or 6 months into the lease, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of a funny thing to think about, but I think that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Is that something that you guys are working on at all?
It is, and it's been on my mind, but I finally made a decision on it because anything I do, I want to do well, but like I also don't want to get distracted from growing the management business. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I've kind of have some hesitant resistance to like doing a deep dive into my sales process on the tenant side, but we're going to get there. We're going to do it. But what we're doing now basically is I hired a real estate agent that specifically focuses on tenants, independent contractor. And the reason I did that was I actually went to lunch with a pretty successful realtor in my area. And he was like, hey, Steve, give me access to your tenants. I will farm all your tenants. I will like do all this. We'll do a split. And I was like, he was like, I will personally call. I was like, what? Like you will call? I was like, whoa, this must be like valuable if he really wants like this list
Right.
so much. And there's probably a big opportunity there. And so what we've done is she's been doing it about 4 months, I think now. And few leads working, no close that I believe that I know of at the moment, but we're still working on the scripting and stuff. And we've learned that the hard way too. Like she was calling at the lease renewal, but it's too late. So we're adjusting, we're learning. But what she basically does is she used to call and say like, hey, how's it going? My name is Anna E. I'm with GL Realty and Investments. That's like our sister company of Good Life. We're the sister company of Good Life. I just wanted to see how your, stay at the property's going. Kind of a soft sell.
Right.
And what we were finding was everyone was just unloading, like,
right.
Sometimes it was good. I mean, I don't know what the ratio was. Hopefully it's good. I think we do a good job overall. But a lot of times she's getting like, like the fridge is broken and like all this stuff. So she was like taking orders and then like putting them in our software, sending them to like a manager. And so I was like, no, I think I steered you wrong there. Let's just go pretty straightforward. So now she's calling just saying, hey, I wanted to introduce myself. I handle all the sales needs for all the tenants and at Good Life Property Management. First-time buyers, investors. So I just want to introduce myself and just see if you'd thought about purchasing in the near future.
Yeah, I like that, Steve. And it's not sort of a bait and switch, right? You're right up front what the purpose of the call is. I think people like that straightforwardness. Yeah, that's great. And then having a dedicated realtor to that, I think you have to. I think it's a good way to go there.
Totally.
Then on the owner side for us, again, we start that lease renewal process. So what we do is we actually have a real estate agent that helps us with our lease renewal process. Because years ago we had licensed property managers that could also sell, and so we would encourage them to like, if you ever have one of your landlords that wants to buy or sell, you should help them do that. And for whatever reason, for us, we just found that wasn't working. And I think in some ways it was hard for the client, for the landlord. Like they just thought of that person as their property manager. I don't think they thought of them like it. So we switched that up and just have a dedicated realtor that their job is to help out the lease renewal. So at lease renewal time, they will reach out to the landlord and say, hey, by the way, your lease renewal is coming up. Here are some sales comps of what your place could sell for right now. And by the way, do you want to buy another investment property? Right. So sort of very soft touch, just, and again, not necessarily trying to, we don't want to talk them into selling, but, San Diego is probably similar to Charlotte's, but a really hot market. So we have had a lot of attrition of owners that have sold. Of course, if they're going to sell, we want to capture that. Right.
Right. I love that. That gave me a great idea. Having the agent call for the lease renewals, because our listing agent, we did something similar. So she's dedicated to sellers and she calls every owner twice a year and provides a market update. And so why not just have one of those calls be the lease renewal?
Yep.
And I really like that idea. So, and then if they want to have a rent conversation or something, she can kick that to the manager and they can handle that. But
that's right.
But yeah, I really love that. And she's been really successful. I think we're capturing between 50 and 60% currently, about a year and a half in. And I anticipate of available sales. And I anticipate my goal is to get to 80% because I really think we can capture 80% if we stay on them and build, the relationship will build deeper over time. So that's kind of the metrics I've been looking at.
How have you guys been doing with getting your clients to buy more properties?
So we've been very slow on that. We have not done a big push on that. We probably should do that. What do you work? How is that working for you?
Yeah, I would say it was similar to you. I mean, I know that this is one of kind of Steve Rosenberg's big platforms for growth is he's like, hey, I could double the size of my company if every one of my owners just bought, every one of my single property owners bought one more property kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was always encouraged by that. And I know when you had Brad on, he kind of said something similar with his multi-property plan, right? In terms of like, hey, you got 3 properties with us, add one more, and it's like a freebie or whatever kind of thing.
Totally.
And so yeah, we're similar to you. I mean, we're not making a big push at it right now, but it's definitely on our radar as one of our chief ways to grow next year.
Dude, it's so funny. I was talking to this guy, Brandon Hall. He has a website, Real Estate CPA. He's got a fantastic website. I found him. He's actually going to be on the podcast. And I was talking about the cash flow conversation with owners, because you know how it goes. They're like, oh, well, I'm on the fence, rent or sell. And, let's say my rent is $1,800, my mortgage is $2,000, I don't want to be $200 negative a month. And he's like, well, there's 3 things to look at. Number 1 is depreciation, right? Like most owners don't, because I was like, how can I frame a conversation that's not too taxy, but like give some ahas? And I wanted to make a flyer that's really easy. He's like, okay, number 1 is depreciation. Most owners don't understand or that. And I'm like, yeah, I was going to do that anyway. I totally agree. So like have that conversation. 2 is of that $2,000 mortgage payment, let's say $800 is going to principal, or like whatever it is, $500 is going to principal. So you're not losing that money. That's going to pay down the mortgage, right? So like if you're, let's say $1,800 rent and a $2,000 mortgage, that $500 principal pay down really makes your payment $1,500.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's a conversation I have with owners a lot. When they tell me what their mortgage payment is, I stop and say, well, let's break down the principal and interest.
So you're way ahead of me. I was like, I've never considered, I knew that.
I'm like, look, if you're willing to be negative on your monthly cash flow, like if you can absorb that, if you can be okay with being negative 200 every month, but you are able to look at it and see, well, I'm actually gaining $500 of equity every month. So I'm actually positive 300.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great way to go for the folks that are not so price sensitive and they can absorb that. And I have intentional investor clients. Like I have one right now that he bought a place for like $300,000 a couple of years ago, and it only rents for about $2,000 a month. And he's just like this. He's negative on the cash flow, but the place has appreciated $50,000 or $550,000 in the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets the concept that he's just building all that equity to pay down principal, and so he's okay with that. That's the strategy that he's intentionally going after.
Totally. So you have that conversation, and then you go, on top of that, if your $500,000 home in San Diego goes up 5%, which it's likely to do, that's $25K. So not only are you cash flow positive before the equity, but you actually came out way on top with the equity. Plus you only put 10% down. So the whole thing's leveraged. It's like, right. I think we have a duty as property managers to take a look at that conversation and making it as simple as possible so people can understand, and then using that to reduce churn. So like I'm always beating the drum with my clients on our monthly newsletter where I do a video and stuff. Like nobody ever looked back 20 years and like, man, I wish I would have sold that house I own in San Diego. Like, it's like nobody's ever uttered those words. So, I almost like congratulate my clients. Like you own rental property in San Diego, like high five, I just look at this, like, look, here's a way to look at it. Like, unless your lifestyle is really taking a hit by like making some investment in your property, then it's probably a keeper. You know what I mean? If it's in a good area and a good property.
Steve, what are you using for your monthly newsletters?
So we are using MailChimp, but we actually are just transitioning to HubSpot right now. And we're doing a lot of marketing stuff with HubSpot. And so that's a whole nother story. It's a really cool tool. It's got a ton of bells and whistles. It's been a little difficult to learn, but we're finally made that turn, and we're learning a lot with that product.
That's great. Yeah, I've heard lots of great things about HubSpot.
Yeah.
Cool. What else should we chat about here?
Yeah, man. Your resident benefit package, what's going on with that? That looks freaking awesome.
Yeah. So we We started off with this a couple of years ago by kind of going all in with keyless smart homes, and so that was kind of the break into this. And so a lot of folks in our industry, of course, are using Tenant Turner, Showmojo, Rently. Maybe there's some others,
Right.
and that's an expense. And so, but I looked at the opportunity that Rently came out with Rently Keyless, and thought, okay, could I actually turn what is currently an expense into a profit center?
Mm.
And so that's what we've done. So we get the initial lock on the building, and then it has a monthly expense. And so then I turn around and sell that expense to the tenant for a little upcharge, but it's a value add to them. And by the way, this is something I picked up from Alex Osenenko at one point. He said, we need to stop calling these things ancillary fees. They're really value add fees or benefit, right. Something else. Sure. And it is, right? So this is a value add that I'm adding to my tenant. But there's actually an article out there that I read a few months ago that said 80% of tenants are willing to pay extra for a smart home with features like this, like a keyless lock. And so that really encouraged me that I was onto something there. And from there, just started adding other features and benefits into the resident benefit package, like air filter delivery,
mm-hmm.
Asset protection, renter's insurance type thing, and other features, and just kind of bundled it all up into this one great value add package to give to the tenants. And we love it. I think our tenants like it. I think it helps us rent our properties faster, actually, that we have these features that we can give to our tenants.
Yeah, man, that is genius. Keyless smart home, I think, do you do insurance for them too, or you buy their insurance?
Yeah, it's the asset protection, right? So it's not technically renter's insurance. We still encourage them to go out and get renter's insurance if they want to.
Mm-hmm.
There are different ways to do that. I know other folks are doing it differently with like a master renter's insurance plan. Ours is just an asset protection, but it does give them benefits there.
So what's your pushback? Very little, or how's that been?
From the tenants, I think very little, honestly. And part of the reason is because we advertise it, right? So
mm-hmm.
when they see the ad right from the get-go, it says, hey, this property comes with XYZ for this extra fee per month. And so they know going in what to expect. And we get virtually no pushback.
Man, I love it. I wonder, what do you think if I made it optional? Because in California, you can't charge tenants anything at lease signing without like their approval. So right. I wonder if I made this optional, what the buy-in would be.
Yeah, I don't know. In our case, we don't make it optional, but that's a good question. I know that it's always interesting talking to you folks in California. It's like a different country out there for
man. I know. I try not to like hide behind it as an excuse, and I love that you did this, because that's where I get my energy and passion and creativity, is like trying to figure out, okay, how can I charge something and add value and make money? You know what I mean? It's like, that's what's fun, not racing to the bottom or
right
and all that stuff.
Right. Yep.
Oh yeah, man. I wanted to talk to you about virtual offices. So I know you're completely virtual. I'm fascinated about that at two levels. One is, obviously we get a lot of walk-ins, and I don't want to staff like a receptionist, which we don't currently have.
Right.
And two is, we're really doing a push to grow in an area like 30, 45 minutes from our office. And so we got, a virtual office, trying to establish a map pin. Like, what have you learned about that whole like experience?
Yeah, so we're a completely virtual company. We went virtual, I think, about 2 years ago now. It was a learning process. I mean, for me, what I started to realize, number one, was there can be this mindset that property managers should be at the properties. But what we found is that is the fastest way to kill efficiency and productivity, is to put your property manager in a car, right? Mm-hmm. So we kind of just made the decision of like, hey, being a property manager is actually a desk job. I actually don't want you to leave your desk and go get in your car to go drive to the property. So that was sort of decision number one, even while we still had an office. And so then we created this other position that we kind of call a field agent, that their job is basically just to be the boots on the ground, to be the eyes and ears for the property manager. So once once we made that decision, then you realize, well, my property manager could actually be anywhere, right? And so all of us by now know about virtual assistants, but that world is getting more and more progressive. Like, it's not, I can hire not just a virtual assistant, but I can hire a really smart, intelligent, well-educated, good English speaking virtual person that could live anywhere in the world that could do all sorts of things for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when we kind of made the decision that we could go virtual. And so we rent from Regis. I think Regis is in most places, probably in San Diego. And so that gives us that ability to have storefronts or map pins like you're doing.
Yeah.
And so Charlotte, where we are, is probably similar to San Diego in the sense that it's a pretty geographically spread out area. So there certainly would be a lot of benefit for us to start adding kind of virtual offices in a circle around Charlotte. We could easily pick 5 or 6 places that we could do that with, really expand our map and our coverage. That's not something we're doing yet, but that is very much on our radar to start adding those spots because we get that now. Like, our main Regis office is in Uptown. We call it Uptown. It's basically downtown Charlotte. Mm-hmm. And we'll get that sometimes. Our landlord will call and they'll be like, "Oh, you could walk to my condo from your office." And I'm like, "Yep, I sure can."
If someone walks into the Regis, is there like a secretary there or like someone that tells them like you're not there?
Yeah, so we put it right on our website and we say, "Hey, we're by appointment only," and that tends to work most of the time. And the rationale is I was just speaking to my business partner about this past week, and we were like, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to go visit your doctor, you don't get to just pop in and be like, "Hey, I'm here to see my doctor," or if you want to meet your accountant or your lawyer or whomever, you have to make an appointment, right? And so, there's no reason we can't be the same way. That, hey, no problem, you want to see me, just make an appointment, and I can meet them at Regis. But the reality is, most of the time, if we need to meet somebody, we'll meet them at a house or a coffee shop or whatever.
Right.
But we have the option to meet at Regis. We could do that.
Right.
But yeah, you get every now and then you get the people that are just absolutely insistent that they just insist that they must be able to walk into your office and see somebody. So there's a receptionist there who does a pretty good job of just explaining, hey, there's nobody here right now. Let me take your information. So we'll get back to you. But you do get some pushback. I mean, a couple weeks ago, we got a 1-star review because somebody was like, "Oh, this company's a scam artist. Group 15 Real Estate's not real." And and I kind of responded in kind of I tried to be funny about it. How I responded and was like, "Hey, I'm sure we're just as real as you are. Our sign's on the door. Sorry you didn't see the sign."
It's so funny how quickly people revert to like this is a total scam. It's like,
right.
It's like, no, it's really not, but
right.
But they get heated. So yeah, that's interesting. We're doing the Regis office. We just got it in that location and we're trying to drive reviews to that Google pin. I'm curious about your field agent. So I assume the manager would be a higher position than the field agent, right? Like a salary wise?
Well, could be, but maybe not, right?
Okay.
So like in our case, one of our main property managers lives in Romania. Okay.
Nice. Wow. Awesome.
So she gets paid less than my field agent does here in the States, but she gets paid very, very well for somebody who lives in Romania.
Right.
And so that's just sort of a way to kind of make those economics work and keep your labor efficiency rate high.
Got it. So the field agent does the make ready, figures out what needs to be done, emails the owner, gets the approvals as needed, and just manages that whole make ready process where the PM's kind of just out of that process and then comes in once it's rented?
No, not really. The field agent, like I said, really is designed to be the eyes and ears of the property manager, right? So the field agent reports directly to the property manager. So the field agent will go out there, do the inspection, put together a video report, however you want to do it, and then basically send that off to the vendor and or the property manager. And the property manager will handle all the interactions with the tenant or owner from there. So we don't in general have the field agent talking to clients, to landlords, although they could, and we don't mind them doing that. but that's not the process.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. That's something we're looking at too. When you're adding a decent amount of doors, like my PMs do the make readies currently. And so we're looking to add like maybe a make ready manager type position to help kind of manage like when we get large influx of new doors, which can be problematic, but that's cool, man. That's really interesting. I like that. So what else is up? What else you want to talk about?
Oh man. What are the latest tools you're into for property management? I've been going through an interesting exercise here recently where I felt like I was really going after all the latest bells and whistles, and then had to sort of stop and think, what of these tools are actually making me money and is making my business better? And what things did I sign up for just because it's kind of the cool factor and I want to look like a really cutting edge company? And wondering how you're doing with that.
Yeah, man, that's a good question. So I don't have the tech, like the disease where you have to buy every tech tool, luckily.
Yeah, that's good.
Disease. I don't mean to like say that.
Yeah.
But,
so you're not like in line at 3 a.m. to get like the latest iPhone X kind of thing?
Totally not. I'm like the late adopter. Like I didn't even get a cell phone until like junior year in college. But what I am reckless on is like consultants and like people, that can help my business. But that's kind of what I've learned is my superpower to a certain extent. It's like, I'll search out the who, like they teach in Strategic Coach, like who, not how. And so rather than me try to figure out, how am I going to like make my sales process better? I hired someone, to help redo the sales process and to help us implement HubSpot and to help us, what I'm really excited about right now, to be honest, is like operations and property management. I kind of started getting a little like, it's not firing me up, right? But now Jordan kind of helped me look at, hey, if you want to grow and be a juggernaut, you got to operationalize sales and marketing. So now I'm like laser focused on sales and marketing with like my BDM and my marketing person. And it's almost like we're building a new company. So we're redoing like our whole process from the ground up, sales process. And it's funny, like even when I first started in the process, I was like, what is a sales process? Like, I just go get doors, like, so I'm learning a lot. Like, I don't have all the answers by any means, but like my education in sales and marketing has like gone up so much. So I'm spending a lot of money there. And I think your questions like, where do you draw the line? But I think as long as you're profitable and you're not like running deficits and just like, if you're profitable, you can make a lot of mistakes. You know what I mean?
Sure. So when you say you're redoing your sales process from the grounds up, is that all through HubSpot that you're kind of focused in that area?
Yeah. So HubSpot is sales and marketing. It's like two tools. And so, the sales process, we're looking at like, okay, what are the different stages in the sales process, mapping those out. And those are stages in HubSpot. So you get like a pipeline. So every salesperson has a pipeline and they know to hit their pipeline. What quality leads, what leads are marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads. So just kind of understanding all that has given me a tremendous advantage in our team. And then re-looking at all the scripting. So like, what everyone says, what the BDM says, what are like really massaging that, and then scorecarding and, prospecting. So like we're really focused on the sales part right now. And then the marketing side is next, where we're going to look at all the emails we're sending and, the different content. So I'm a big believer in Marcus Sheridan's, talk and his approach.
Yeah.
So the marketing person I hired is a writer first and foremost. That's what Marcus taught me, is get a writer out of college, that has ambition, that, is a good writer first and foremost, and you can teach everything else. So she's been writing some incredible blog articles for us, and there's really no rocket science to it. It's like, if you put out 1,500 word articles, 2,000 word articles that are, Google crawls that, and you will move up, and so we're already seeing keywords going way up. And I think that's where I want to be, is fielding a bunch of inbound leads. Now there's something to be said for outbound, and we have a lot of strategies for outbound, and that's working well too, but that's kind of what's going on in our world as far as sales and marketing.
And speaking of Marcus Sheridan, so what else are you doing in terms of video content to go along with your blog articles?
So we're lacking there. It's on our radar. We need to do more. We're doing a landlord newsletter, so we're doing some video there. What I learned is they kind of taught us, look at your top performing blog articles and then do video content around that. We used to just do video content on everything, and you kind of spin your wheels, I think. So see what people care about and then go deeper on that. And so we're doing that. I'm trying to think, we're trying to do some top of mind funny stuff. Like one of my guys makes rap videos about like property management. It's pretty funny. Like we're working on stuff like that. I've got a story video that I'm doing next week. I'm really excited about. If you go to tuftonneedle.com, it's a mattress company.
I own a Tufton Needle.
So do I, brother. Yeah. Virtual high five.
That's right.
Yeah. So I went to their website, watched their story video. Did you watch that?
No.
Okay. Watch their story video. I never pulled out my credit card and swiped for $700 like so fast in my life. It's just like their 6-minute video. I completely bought in. And it was basically this. I'm this guy. And we're the owners of this company. You know, we started it, blah, blah, blah. Let me take you back to the beginning. We were college students, and like, you just get so endeared to them during the whole process. And then I totally bought into what their why was, so to speak. And so I'm a big believer that that's powerful. So like, I'm trying to recreate that, and I'm excited to post that on the website in the next couple of weeks.
That's so funny. What's interesting about this story is having to capture different consumers, right? So for me, I didn't watch the video, at least not that I recall. But what I did is spent like hours and hours reading all sorts of reviews on Tufton Needle versus this competitor versus that competitor, all over Amazon, other websites. And because, you know, it feels like a big decision to buy a mattress for $700 over the internet, you know, return policies. But yeah, that's just funny how we have to thoughtfully figure out how to capture different consumers with different mentalities and how they make buying decisions, right?
Totally. So like how you learn. So like Colby Scores is big in strategic coach, Colby.com. It's like a personality assessment we use on everyone we hire. And you would be like a high fact finder where like you learn by like researching.
Right.
And I am like a 2 fact finder. So like I can't research anything like for more than 5 seconds. So I learned by like doing a lot. So that's why the video. So you're right. So like having different, that's why it's important to be doing video and be doing blog, be doing audio, podcasting for your audience. You know, it doesn't have to be to property management entrepreneurs, but I know people doing case studies with podcasting and, doing a lot of great stuff. So audio is the next big thing, I think, too.
Yeah, it's funny too. Going back to the Marcus Sheridan comment, you and I were both together at PM Grow, and did you take Marcus's class that he did beforehand?
Yeah.
So I was in that class with you, and it's funny that you walked away going like, oh yeah, Marcus says I need to hire a copywriter, and I'm sure he said that. I walked away saying, oh, Marcus said I need to hire a videographer, and so that's what we went out and did. And so we actually brought on a full-time photographer and videographer. And part of the math on that was like, okay, well, I want to have really high quality house photos and videos of my listings anyway.
Right.
And so whatever expense I'm going to have associated with that, I can go and factor that into, whatever my expense for hiring a full-time person is. And now I have somebody that can really help me pump out the content marketing videos as well. But yeah, like you said, I mean, it's all about inbound content marketing, right? I mean, that's where it's at.
Totally.
If you can solve that problem, you've solved a lot of problems.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'd love to see how long you've had the videographer. How's that been going? Like, what's your strategy? Like, do you have them doing, what kind of content are they making and how often? I'm interested in that.
Yeah, in our case, we sort of had some starts and stops there. We brought him on maybe like 6 months ago, but the problem is, we were talking earlier about our field agent. Right around the time we hired the videographer, my field agent at the time quit and moved to the West Coast to pursue other passions. And so I basically had to scramble and turn my videographer into my field agent temporarily. Gotcha. And so just about a month ago, we hired the new replacement field agent. So now we're ready to sort of repump that the videographer and get that kind of fired back up again. And sort of like you, we're in the process now of kind of re-looking at everything we're doing with sales and marketing and getting our BDM really aligned with all of that. And so we really want to start. We have a list, a Google Doc that we keep of video marketing and content marketing ideas. And so yeah, now we're ready to start pumping that stuff out.
Nice. We should do a call just on sales and marketing in the next, whatever, just share kind of content and ideas. But go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, that's great. And it's just like you said, you learned it from Jordan in terms of, Jordan says this a lot, right? I mean, so many people view it as sort of like a little side thing that they kind of have to have in their business, but really it should be the thing that gets front and center attention in your business.
Right. Yeah, 100%. So time for maybe one or two more, and then I'll let you go. But review culture, I know you'd wrote. How are reviews going for you, and what's your thought process around that?
Yeah, I mean, so we always try to be really intentional about asking for reviews. I mean, I'm basically like a happy Labrador retriever. If any owner, any tenant ever says anything like remotely nice about a company, I'm like, oh, great. Could you say that same thing in a 5-star review, right? So you just have to always be asking. And so, we try to do that. But yeah, there's just, you always feel frustrated and disappointed when you get those 1-star reviews.
Totally.
In some cases, they're legitimate, right? You have to own that and learn from that and figure out how you can adjust, whatever you need to adjust. But in some cases, you just read them and you're just frustrated. Like, man, how do I deal with that? And so, yeah, I guess maybe I was more or less venting to you, Steve, when I wrote that.
No, I hear you, man. It's something. Well, first off, I think people need to be in the mindset. I heard Grant Cardone say this. He's like, I don't care how many negative reviews I get because I'm going to get so many positive reviews that it's not even going to matter. Right. So I just latched onto that concept, and I, try not to let the bad ones get me down. But something that's really working for us is we hired this guy, Johnny, is his first job out of the military. First off, recommend hiring military. Like, I mean, he's my first one, but like this guy will take a body for to get rid of a body for me. He'll do anything for me, this guy, and I'll do anything for him. But he goes out and gets reviews, and he talks to people. He does showings, he does inspections, and he'll get 5 reviews in a day. And we're like, how do you do that? And he's like, I just let them know that if what's going to happen, and that reviews are really important. So if I do a good job, please leave me a review. And then he's very helpful with them. And then he asks them. And I guess the key to this is he asks face to face, which I'm finding is 500% more effective than an email. Because he's I just see his results. And so if you have a field person who's doing showings or something, that might be something. And I'm happy to have him talk to anyone if anyone's interested. But he is getting a ton of reviews for us. And I think the strategy is just in person, doing a great job, caring about them, relating to them. Like he says, he's we'll see something on their wall during an inspection and be like, oh, you drive Jeeps? Oh, that's really cool. Relating to them. And then giving good service and then asking for it, which I think is key. But it's hard to do. It's not easy to always ask in person. It's a little awkward, but he's mastered it and he's just slaying it for us.
Does he ask them to do it right there on the spot? Hey, can you pull out your phone and give me a review, or how does that go?
That's a good question. I don't think he does. I think, no, I don't think he does, but it's also a numbers game. So I think he'll ask 10, but I think 4 of the 10 will do it because it's in person. And once they say they'll do it, now they have a commitment. You know what I mean?
And on that note too, what are you doing specifically to drive reviews to your satellite pin offices?
So we just started that, but basically, we're doing a push towards everybody getting reviews there. So if we can get up to a certain amount, there'll be a financial incentive there. But we're just changing our links we email out to that pin. And just basically focusing on that pin only for right now.
Hey, I have one other question for you. So you mentioned before that your weakness, if you want to call it that, is going after consultants and bringing consultants into your business. Mm-hmm. For the business owner out there that is not used to that, and maybe has never hired a consultant before, where do you recommend they start? What would you say is this is the first type of consultant you should start with?
Well, I would probably look at where you're struggling the most or where the greatest opportunity is or where actually you are very weak. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
Yeah.
Uh, like look at your weakness and then fill that with someone that can, you know, add value there. So that's probably where I'd start. You know, like for instance, and not always solving your biggest problems, but I think sometimes we get sucked into problems too much and we at the detriment of opportunities. So like we have great opportunities, but we're always getting sucked into like these problem type things. So I'd caution people to look at, you know, the opportunity and weigh it against maybe some problem issue you're having. But I think at the end of the day, we have to grow to provide opportunity for our teams and ourselves. And so, you know, I would start there unless you already have the growth.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah.
Cool.
What have you found to be some of your most valuable consultants you've worked with?
Man, all right. So strategic coach, no brainer. I'm a honk on that.
Yeah,
EOS.
your podcast episode on that was really great with EOS and the Dan Sullivan stuff. I'm a big Dan Sullivan fan as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Clint, the call I did with Clint, I love Clint. Clint's helped me probably more than anyone else as far as like thinking and management. He's been a big help. And then so the implementer EOS has been huge. We're using Juicy Results right now, which is a guy, Jeremy Pound, for our sales process. Highly recommend. Let him know Steve referred you. He is
Too late. Jordan already referred him to me.
oh yeah, right. I know, right? Jordan yeah, man. He's been awesome. You know, social media, we're using Crystal Lindsay. So like I'm building this, I'm bringing in the people that can help us and do it rather than me figure out how to do all these things. So those have probably been the best. I can't think if there's anyone else, but yeah, those have probably been the best, most effective.
Do you have an idea of like percentage of revenue that you'd be willing to dedicate to sort of outside consultants? Have you ever thought through that?
No.
Yeah. All right.
I was thinking, but no, I haven't.
But the idea is they should all make you more money anyway, right? If it's going correctly. So
Totally.
yeah.
And you know, I've been lucky because they all have. But
Yeah, that's great.
yeah, man. Well, cool, man. This was super fun. I learned a lot. I got some good notes, and always beneficial to talk to a fellow property manager, man. Especially, I like what you're doing. You're forward thinking, and you know are building the revenue side, but also putting focus on value, and you're being different, which is very appealing to me. So I'm glad we jumped on this call.
Yeah, me too. It's really important for us to figure out what our differentiators are. And congrats on the podcast. I really enjoyed it, and look forward to many more great episodes.
Perfect, man. Thanks so much. We'll talk again.
All right. Bye now.
See you, bud. Cool, man. Good stuff. Awesome.
Yeah, it was good stuff. What do you have